I haven't had my Kindle Paperwhite with me for the past 2 months, so I've been completely dependent on my iPad for reading ebooks. If you've been around this channel before, I have a video where I talk about Kindle versus iPad for reading ebooks, but at the time I only had a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Last year for my birthday, I got this iPad mini, and I've seen a lot of comments in my other Kindle versus iPad video about people who switched to just using the iPad as their only reading device. So not having the other option of reading on the Kindle for the last 2 months because my friend had borrowed it, let's talk about some of the things that I've liked and disliked about this experience so that you can decide for yourself whether you want or need both devices or if one is going to be sufficient. So let's start by talking about the screens on these two devices. Now, with the two screens, they are very different, but also very close in size. So the Kindle does have that e-ink screen, which means that it's just going to be in grayscale and have a much slower refresh rate on things like the page turns. But the benefits of this, which we'll talk about in a bit, are the much better battery life, and it also contributes to Kindle's limitations for media other than text or black and white images. I love the screen on the iPad mini, and I did also put a screen protector on, which is the first time I've done that for an iPad, but I did find that it helped a little bit with glare and direct sunlight if I was reading outside. And these screen protectors do scuff up over time, and you can see, especially because I also use an Apple Pencil on occasion, that you can see the pencil marks over time, but it makes a lot more sense to just replace a screen protector than worry about damaging the much more expensive screen on the iPad versus something like the Kindle. And I will also say that the writing experience having one of these screen protectors on is also much better compared to trying to write without having that extra bit of friction from having the screen protector on. Now, considering the form factor of both of these and having the screen size that is very similar, the iPad mini still does have a slightly larger screen, and you'll typically get more words per page on the screen than you will with the Kindle Paperwhite, but I don't think it's that big of a difference unless you really ramp up the font size for your comfort in reading and you find that you can only have a few words per page on the Kindle versus maybe fitting a few more words on that iPad. Now, a little bit more with the form factor. I love that reading on this iPad mini can still work really great just one-handed. It doesn't have quite the same bezels on it or those side rails in the bottom as the Kindle, which makes this a lot easier, for holding it just with a couple of fingers even, or putting like a pop socket on the back so that it's even easier to read with. With the iPad, I find that I touch the screen a lot more when trying to read just with a couple of fingers, but it still does work and it's nice and light. So it does make it very easy to still read for a couple hours without having to worry about the fatigue of, maybe holding like a larger iPad and trying to prop it up in order to keep on reading and enjoying. And when I first got this iPad mini, I didn't put a pop socket or anything on it, but I think that could help even more with the comfort and ease of reading it with one hand or for extended periods of time. Now, also with extended reading sessions, let's talk about the battery life comparison. Battery life for me is a big one. I do find that if I charge the iPad in the morning, I'm good to go for the whole day. So this would include anything else that I want to use for it, whether it's taking notes with pencil or looking at my to-do list and calendar or reading articles in Reader or even watching YouTube videos and doing some browsing of the internet. I find that I have no problem getting through the day fully if the iPad is charged up for the way that I want to use it, like this. And this includes even a couple of hours of reading if it's on the weekend and I'm going to be using the iPad for an extended period of time. The Kindle, though, just goes forever. I charged it up before letting my friend borrow it, and it still was at 70% battery life 2 months later. With the heavy use that I certainly did when I finally got it back and was binge reading on it, I still got through several weeks without even needing to charge it back up again. This also goes into an important comparison with the reading comfort. We spend so much time on screens these days, or at least I do, that the Kindle to me is still a pleasant experience to go back to for reducing that exposure to blue light and just those, backlit, really bright screens, and having a much more natural reading experience that can go everywhere with you. I realized pretty quickly that I missed not having my Kindle, and I quickly went back to it being the main reading device that I used once I got it back. Not that the iPad mini was a complete write-off or not realistic to use every single day and, pack in a backpack and take with me just as easily as the Kindle. And there's also the important options that you get with reading on an iPad that you don't get with Kindle, where you're limited to either sending your own EPUBs that you've purchased elsewhere, or, depending on the Kindle library of books. With an iPad, you've got so many more options on what and when you can read things. But to me, I really appreciate the simplicity of limiting reading to just ebooks, primarily on Kindle, because there's just so much content that we consume these days. I love sitting down with a stack of articles and reading them on the Reader app on the iPad, or having the flexibility to go in and read something in Apple Books when I don't necessarily have the book for Kindle. But going back to really just kind of picking one thing and reading it deeply and enjoying it that way on the Kindle just makes a pretty big difference in the experience of reading overall on these devices. So now, having experienced it, I can see how consolidating to one device makes sense for a lot of people. They don't want to carry around two different tech devices and decide on which one to read on or switch to. And this iPad mini definitely is the favorite one that I've ever had, just for the form factor, how easy it is to throw in a backpack alongside a notebook, or even to fit in a larger fanny pack if you want to take just one device with you to a coffee shop or for taking quick notes at a meeting. Throughout the day, on a normal day, I only take the iPad mini with me because it also does double as that great reading device. But if I'm going to be out reading in the sun all day or traveling, I'll certainly still bring the Kindle with me, since I won't have to worry about charging it, and it'll always be very bright and clear to read, even in the brightest, summer sun. So I hope this comparison video was helpful. I figured that this would be a much more relevant and useful comparison for a lot of people than the full-size iPad that I also have versus a Kindle. And anybody that's looking to update or decide on one of these two devices today will certainly want to consider the different factors that we talked about in this video. So if you found it helpful, make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you love reading and are into personal development, as well as finding flow and performing at your very best, make sure that you subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for the next video.